Hello, my favorite ghouls and goblins. Welcome back to an all new episode of Sam Explains the World. I'm your hostess with the mostess, Samantha Bremerkamp, and to continue our spooktacular October episodes, we are going to focus on delicious desserts using those cookie cutters from Annie down the street. Thank you for being awesome, Annie. And using already made pie crust and already made puff pastry and filling it with a variety of delicious things from Nutella to a cherry jam, apple pie filling, and your straight up brown sugar concoction to make basically Halloween shaped Pop Tart type things. So sit back, relax, get super pumped because it's going to be a howling good time. So let's start by going over what you're going to need to make these delectable desserts. Starting out with some cookie sheets, baking sheets. Um, we have these silicone baking mats, which are awesome. Instead of like, you can use parchment, you could also just coat the pan with butter or, spray or whatever. A rolling pin, even though we already have the pre-made rolled out dough and puff pastry, just in case, because you want to make sure your shapes are fairly even for when you put them in the oven to cook them evenly. You're going to need, yes, the dough. You can make it from scratch if you want. If you do, woo, you're amazing. Same with puff pastry, some kind of jam filler that you might like, Nutella, or I have the knockoff from Aldi, Old Berry Hill hazelnut spread, or a knockoff hazelnut, whatever you're into. I'm going to be adding ginger, cardamom, and nutmeg into the brown sugar cinnamon concoction for like the Pop Tart like ones we'll be making. I'm going to be using cookie cutters that are Halloween shaped. You don't even have to use cookie cutters. You could literally just do the two sheets of dough and then like cut them into squares or triangles or whatever you want. Just because I have access to these, thanks to my amazing neighbor, I'm going to do the really fun shapes. I'm going to be using flour anyway, not because I'm making dough, but just to sprinkle on my surface as I'm rolling things out and cutting out the shapes because you don't want it sticking and then you lose out on that. Obviously the cinnamon, I have butter because you're going to brush butter on top of the desserts and I'll show you that. And I do have a board. You don't need it. I also washed the surface of the granite countertop island. So it's however you want to do it. But let's get started. I'm going to first do, I think, the dough. With the dough, I'm going to be doing a cinnamon sugar medley inside for part of it and an apple pie filling for other parts of it. For this variety by my friends at Pillsbury, I'm just kidding. They don't sponsor this, but you guys can call me. Have your bad people call my bad people. That comes with two pre-rolled out pieces of pie crust or dough, if you will. It's going to be super easy to roll them out. They've been in the fridge. I'm going to let them sit out for a second. And now I'm going to do a quick peeling into this apple, chop it up. We'll do a sped up segment for you, and we'll really get cooking. Okay, so for the apple pie filling, super easy. Just cut up. I'm using a Granny Smith. That's always my go-to for pies. I like the contrast of the tartness of the apple with the sweetness of the sugar. Brown sugar, especially dark brown sugar in particular. I've added the cinnamon, brown sugar, ginger, and nutmeg, and cardamom. If you like those things too, awesome. If you don't like those things too, you don't have to use them. This is your awesome concoction that you're coming up with. I didn't use the whole apple just because I'm showing you guys how to do it. So no big deal. If you spill cinnamon and sugar on the surface that you're about to use with dough, I wouldn't really worry too much about cleaning it up because the dough will just pick it up and that'll become even more delicious. Sometimes messy is so superior to being really sterile. Okay. Okay. Carefully unroll the already made dough. And of course, I got the one that's pie crust shaped, so it's going to be round. They also make them so for other projects, you can get them. They're not round. Just depends on what you're doing. Okay. Let's go get this started as it sits out. It starts to get used to this temperature. I'm going to do part of this with the apple filling. Or am I going to do, maybe I'll do the whole thing with the apple filling because I'm obsessed with it. And with the puff pastry, I'll do Nutella and jam. I think I'm going to do that first. So, how exciting. Super easy. Dump your filling. If it gets messy, you're doing it correctly. We're going to spread it out because you don't want it to be too overstuffed. I mean, you do and you don't. You do and you don't. Easily spread that out. Yeah. You want it flat-ish. Obviously, the chunks of apple, the way you cut it, because of the size of my cookie cutters, or the ones I'm borrowing, are smaller shaped. I cut the apples smaller. You know, you can do it how you want. That is how I want to do it. So good. I'm going to throw some flour on it just because, as you've learned watching me do apple treats, apple pie type of treats, the inside, the apples are going to produce liquid. And it's smart to think ahead, plan ahead, add a little flour so it collects some of the liquid, makes it thicker, and it's not just going to get drenched. Really wasn't that much, not a big deal. Ha, 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 ha. Now we're going to take this part and lay it on. I'm going to do a little more of the flour on top just because with the cookie cutters, we don't want the dough or anything getting stuck to cookie cutters. We want this to be as flawless as possible and then understand that we're humans and what we're doing is experimenting basically, which is really fun. Pressing it down, sealing it in, and then the individual ones will come out in all different shapes. I feel like I'm going to do the pumpkin for this because it's so cute. Oh yeah. Ooh. And if you hear some of the apples being sliced further, that's okay. It's gonna be so delicious. I have the oven preheated to 350, which is a go-to baking temperature for those who are just getting started. Perfect. Trying to get as many as I can. Delicious. And keep this stuff in mind for other holidays with other shapes. just repeat everything and use different cookie cutters, or if you're more artistic than me, freehand cut shapes. Leprechauns, I don't know, pots of gold. The trickiest part of this will be scooping it up without losing too much of the inside. Get one more here. Well, I'm afraid to. Okay. Actually, do it like no, no. Okay. That's as much of that shape as I could do with this. Now is the surgery part of it. Here we go. Wish us luck. We don't need luck. It's not that big of a deal. And transferring it over with the understanding that some's going to spill out, and that's okay. That's typical in the pastry making world. Cute are these pumpkins? So cute. Perfect. I'm using this shaped spatula for this serious surgery. I feel like I have more control because it's smaller. And it's silicone, so it's not going to stick. So sweet. My partner's gonna be pumped. So what is everybody gonna be for Halloween? And now it's time to get batty and to use the already created puff pastry, which I am so thankful to live during a time where things like this already exist. It takes so much time and effort out of the process. So it's very carefully rolled out already on parchment paper so that it doesn't stick to itself. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to end up this way. We'll do it this way. Folding this in half, cutting out the shapes. So I'm going to put like a streak of filling down the center. I'm going to put Nutella for the cat ones, and I'm going to put cherry jam for the bunny. You can do whatever you want. I do think it's important to see what space you're using. So if you just want to gently press in the shape you're going to be utilizing so that you have some kind of direction for where it should be going in for the filling. So I'm going to do four cats just for now, just to show you guys. And however many bats I could fit. Awesome. So I ended up doing 4 bats and 4 cats. You don't have to rhyme, but if you do, really proud of you. I'm not going to do too much filling. If you have bigger cookie cutter shapes or just feel like making these bigger, totally go for it. Just going to put a little bit of Nutella inside. It's going to get messy, and when no one's looking, you're going to have to clean off your fingers a bunch, but you know, it's a small price to pay for delicious perfection. The beauty about doing something as simple as this is that you can fill it with whatever you want. If you're partial to fruit, cool. If you're partial to chocolate, awesome. You could also do peanut butter if you don't have an allergy. Make it like delicious peanut butter chocolate combo, which I'm super into now. I think I'm gonna grab some of the peanut butter maybe, or I'll just do straight up chocolate. I don't know. Endless possibilities. And so deliciously messy. Okay. It's gonna be messy, but it's totally worth it because it's delicious. Kind of directing it into the areas of the bigger part of the pastry. This again is the puff pastry, which is going to, yes, exactly, puff up. Hooray, hooray. So that will be for the chocolate. Don't mind me. Jam. This is Weaver's Cherry Jam. I don't know if you've checked out that spot. Obviously, if you've grew up around here, for sure. But if you're new to the area, highly recommend. Delicious. And pairs really nicely with cheese, which is why we got it to begin with. But, you know, oh, it's not me from using it for other things too. Okay, so the tricky part now is to cut out the shapes a second time and then marry them together. But I believe in you. I think we could do it. Don't forget that trick with the flour. If you find that your dough is starting to stick, you don't really want it to stick. Perfect. Line them up as well as you can. Yes, this is when I should have used more flour, but in the interest of the show and time, doing it the way that you should not do it. Learning my lesson right now. That makes it super annoying, and puff pastry is a little bit more delicate to work with. Cools down faster temperature wise. It starts to get tacky. I don't mean like style tacky, I mean like attaching to the cookie cutter tacky. Not a fashion person. I had all those ends left from the cats and the bats and the puff pastry. I then took the excess of what was left, threw down some flour with some cinnamon, and I'm going to roll this out and utilize what's left to make the cinnamon sugar inside part. Not sure what shape I'm going to use yet. Right now, I just want to make sure I have enough flour down so it doesn't stick. The issue to be aware of when using things like puff pastry is that you have to do things rather quickly, because once it starts to break down in room temperature, now that it's cold, like with the heat on, it'll get tacky really fast and start to be hard to manipulate, which becomes annoying. But have no fear, you'll get through it. Try not to throw fire. And I could have done this with the pie crust, but instead I decided to, in honor of Halloween, take the excess of all of that filling that was in the pie dough leftovers and just put it all together into a monster shape. Okay. So I'm going to now use my fingers and the warmth from my body to manipulate this dough a little farther, because it's a little different than pie crust. So you can only use the rolling pin to get it to go so far before you start to have to use your fingers to push it, push it, push it. One more pass. Now that I've gotten it nice and warmed up with my body temperature. And it's just such a better use than just tossing whatever excess, because you get to eat this if you enjoy it. Why waste it? So to do the inside basic cinnamon sugar, I'm going to be taking sugar and cinnamon. I'm also, again, going to add cardamom and ginger and stuff because I like that stuff, but you don't have to if you don't want to. But if you want to, hooray. Dash of nutmeg, a couple pinches of cardamom. Cardi B, Cardi B's mom, cardamom, and a little bit of a zingy ginger, which is also theoretically good for you. So basically, it's medicinal. In a very, I'm kidding, I'm not a doctor. This is a joke sort of way. And it could be real, but I have no idea. Oh, it smells so good. Fold it in half. I'm gonna try to roll it out one more time. Flour. I'm just experimenting because I can. Oh, yeah. The filling comes out a little bit, that's okay. So good. What shape will I do for this deliciousness? More pumpkins. Could do some ghosts. I'll do some ghosties because they're cute. One. And that breaks apart so much easier. Ooh. Beautiful. Okay. I'm trying to maximize and get as many out of this as I can. So get creative with how you're turning the cookie cutter. Sweet treat, little something something for everybody. Is there room? Yes. that way. I need one more. And the kitchen smells amazing. If you didn't already realize it would. Okay. So the rest of it, I'm gonna fold it up and put it on the plate. Also, I'm gonna quick dress it with some melted butter. If while you're doing this, your butter starts to congeal, you can either power through the way I'm doing it, or you just pop it in the micro or whatever. One more time. Okay. Make it easier on yourself by holding the shapes. I did not do the thing crimping the sides. I don't mind if there's a little spillage. Doesn't bother me, no. At all. Okay, now everybody's dressed up with some delicious butter. And messy, but delicious. And we're about to put that in. So cute. The pumpkin ones are done, which is great, as is the monster that I made. And yes, some of it's spilled out, but it's delicious. And as you know, I like to take that. Basically, it becomes like the caramel consistency. And I'm gonna, the pumpkin ones are done, which is great, as is the monster that I made. And yes, some of it's spilled out, but it's delicious. And as you know, I like to take that. Basically, it becomes like the caramel consistency. And I'm gonna fold it up and use it to decorate the dessert. You can also wait till it cools down and becomes a crunchy candy shell to make like a almost like a sea glass, but with sugar to decorate, or to break up and sprinkle on as sugar. It's your choice, but these are options that you could totally do. And just like that, everything is nice and delicious and toasty. I took everything out of the oven. I let it cool down for a second because, you know, it's hot and ouch. But after much anticipation, how cute did everybody turn out? The ghosts, I think, are especially my favorite. Look how puffy they got. They're so cute. They're just so cute. And of course, the pumpkin apple pie filled ones. The chocolate cats and the delicious cherry bats are all ready to be devoured. I don't know where to start. All right. Here goes nothing. Mm. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Yeah. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm-mm. However you plan on filling in or dressing up your little desserts, highly recommend this. Thanks so much for stopping by and watching this all-new episode of Sam Explains the World. I'm your favorite witch, Samantha Bremicamp, and look forward to seeing you next Friday for another spooktacular edition on BCTV, 9 p.m. Be there or be square.